The 47-year-old Gilbert O'Donnell was a well-known Leith character. Known as something of a strange fella, he dyed his hair jet black and penciled his eyebrows. Registered disabled due to blindness in one eye, he spent much of his time reading and listening to music. A great friend of animals, he devoted much of his time to feeding the birds and putting out sources of milk for the local cats on the back green of 35 Ferry Road, Leith, where he lived in a small flat. The neighbours, who did not at all care for the hordes of cats invading their property, called O'Donnell the Catman of Ferry Road. On the 4th of March 1996, Gilbert O'Donnell was found murdered inside his flat. He had been brutally beaten to death. 15 ribs were broken, a lung punctured, the rib cage collapsed, and liver badly crushed. The neighbours had heard noises in his flat at about 1 a.m. on March the 2nd, indicating that Gilbert O'Donnell had been murdered that night. His sister Maureen told the Edinburgh Evening News journalist that Gilbert had been a harmless character, an eccentric without any enemies. He occasionally enjoyed a pint at the Junction Bridge Bar in Great Junction Street, but was not a heavy drinker. Feeding the cats and the birds was his great passion in life. The police soon had a suspect in custody. Already on March the 5th, the 30-year-old former submariner, John King, appeared in Edinburgh Sheriff Court to be charged with murder. Unusually, it took a full year before King stood trial for the murder at the High Court of Edinburgh. He pleaded not guilty on the grounds of self-defence, claiming that Gilbert O'Donnell had attacked him with a hammer. Professor Janssen Butzel compared the injuries inflicted to the murdered man to those suffered in a severe road traffic accident. It was impossible that Gilbert O'Donnell could have walked up or down the stairs after suffering such a brutal beating. The most curious matter that came to light during the trial, however, was that a woman had seen Gilbert O'Donnell come walking upstairs later in the day when he was supposed to have been murdered. He had been very pale and white and had not looked at her or said hello. Remarkably, a woman had seen O'Donnell feeding the pigeons at the Leith Library the very same day, and a shop assistant claimed he had been in a Leith shop that day after he was supposed to have been beaten to death. Defending John King, Robert Henderson QC asked whether there had been in fact two separate beatings, one inflicted by his client and resulting in relatively minor injuries, and another administered by the real murderer, resulting in death. But the jury found John King guilty of murder, and the former submariner was sentenced to life imprisonment. The motive for the murder may have been unwanted advances gone wrong. It was not speculated about in the newspapers. The purported post-mortem sightings of the Catman of Ferry Road remain a mystery still, unless you're a believer in the spectral world.